Good morning, Anne.
Good morning.
How are you today?
I'm good, thank you.
Good. So, I'm going to get to who this is over here on, I always forget how this goes. She's on my left. I think when you're watching this, she's on your right. Either way, it doesn't matter. I will introduce myself first. If you are coming to us here on YouTube and you found this episode, you have searched and found the Pointing It Out podcast here on YouTube. I always forget to look. We are in at least our third year, at least our, I don't know how many episodes, but that doesn't really matter. But I am Megan Holmes, and I am here at my shop in St. Louis, Missouri, the Needlepoint Clubhouse, and together with my pal, Melissa MacLeod, who owns the Wool and the Floss in Grosse, Pointe, Michigan, we kind of came together and started doing this podcast to bring information and knowledge and education around our favorite industry, which is the needlepoint industry. And so I am so excited to have my pal, who I can now call my pal, Ann Fisher of, I guess, do you just call, is it Ann Fisher Designs? Is that the official?
Ann Fisher Needlepoint.
Ann Fisher Needlepoint. Very good. So I reached out to Ann and I said, hey, would you like to be on the Pointing It Out podcast? And I said, we're going to do a redo. And she was like, yeah, I guess we have done this before, haven't we? And so when I very first, when this whole Pointing It Out podcast kind of started because I was terrified that I'd have to close my business during COVID. And so I started interviewing designers. I called it the Design a Sofa series. And I think the very first one was our pal, Joanna from the Plum Stitchery. I think Don Lynch was early on, Rachel was early on. Anne was definitely one of the early ons, to the point where I'm not sure that the interview that we did actually lives anywhere. Anne, we were kind of talking about that.
Yeah.
We don't know if it was on Instagram, if it was on YouTube. Melissa's daughter finally wrangled us and said, hey, if you're going to do all this like filming on Instagram, why don't you actually make it a thing and put it on YouTube? And so I've been sort of trying to reach back out to my original guests, I guess I'll call it, and sort of do a formalized version of what we did in kind of a really goofy way. Like I was laying on my couch, you were in you called it
like the plant. Yeah, it was really dark. Like I was like holding my phone, I think. The kids were out playing beer pong with my mom. Like it was interesting. Yeah.
It was wild times, and it was also times before we really understood how to set ourselves up on Zoom and have lighting and do all the things. So we are redoing this now. And since the first time we spoke, Anne and I have developed just a friendship. And so I feel like I'm talking to a pal. So I hope we can actually get to the gritty pieces of your business and we can educate people about all of what you do. So, Anne, let's start at the very beginning. Why or when did you start needlepointing?
So I started needlepointing when my mom brought back a little sampler from Bermuda. It was like little squares, and it would have been made into, well, not really a sampler, but it was 4 squares that then would have been made into a pillow with like ribbon in between. She had one, and I finished 3 of the 4 squares. I've been trying to find them. I moved into the house I grew up in 2012, and the basement is a treasure trove of childhood artwork and things from school and all that. And I've been trying to find them. I don't know where they are. She doesn't either, but that's when I started. I was probably maybe like 10, I think, when I did that.
I love that.
Yeah. And then it dropped off. I really didn't needlepoint at all when I was in middle and high school. And then picked it up again out of college, and that was it.
So you were stitching away, and one day, how did this, oh, wait, well, hold on, let me back up. Your degree, your education, is it in art? Do you have a formalized art degree?
So I actually designed my own major because I went to a liberal arts school up in Connecticut. I went to Trinity College, and I did want to go to Rhode Island School of Design. My dad thought that I needed a more rounded education. So I went to a liberal arts school and designed my own major in architectural studies. So I was able to take classes in architecture and Italian and art history. And basically I took virtually everything that they had at the school, French and whatnot, and designed my own major. And yes, I mean, I've been taking art classes since I was about 4. I've been painting and drawing since then. And so after I had the kids, who are 13 months apart, my husband decided to go to law school, and I needed something to do. And I happened to be at a charity event, and my friend had a small needlepoint business. And I was like, oh, where can I get some canvas? I want to do something for my mom. Okay. And she was like, oh my God, I forgot you paint. She's like, come to my house tomorrow. I'm going to give you some canvas and I want you to do a belt. And I was like, what? So she basically gave me, paint these icons on a belt, bring it back to me. Let's see how you do. It was awful. And I had to.
Feeling it wasn't awful, but I am going to point out one thing. Like, you can't just be a painter and all of a sudden make icons on a needlepoint belt. And I'm wondering if perhaps architectural.
I am sort of very, my family would say type A. There's another word we could use, but we won't for the podcast. So it did kind of work for me, because I tell people all the time, it's a graph. I mean, it's squares. But I didn't understand, a lot of people think, oh, it's so easy, just do it. You just paint on it. It's just like canvas. And until you actually sit down and realize that's not the case.
Yeah.
And that it takes a lot of time and planning and counting and numbers and whatnot.
Consistency of the paints. I mean, it's a different art form for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. It was definitely a learning curve for me, but then I got the hang of it, did a lot of belts for her. And that's kind of how it started. So I started doing that when the kids were, I think they were like 2 and 3, when that started.
Wow. And so the kids now, I just know, are out of undergrad for sure. So is this 20 years?
Yeah, actually they are about to turn 23 and 24 this year. So I've been doing this for over 20 years. I did custom work for what was busy stitching, and then that turned into Trish's place, and then that I got passed along with the inventory to Stitch House, literally. I did custom work for Stitch House in Wayne for years, as well as a number of other stores. I think when it got out that I was doing custom work, all of a sudden I got calls from stores all over the country. I didn't realize how difficult it is to find a custom painter, especially one who has a problem saying no. And
so I want to back up just a second, because the one thing I glossed over is you mentioned that you are living in your childhood home, but you didn't say where. Not specifically, we don't need your address, but you are in Pennsylvania.
I am. So I live in technically St. David's, Pennsylvania, which is about 25 minutes outside of Philadelphia, right by Villanova, if people know Villanova University.
And so your local needlepoint shop would be then, in fact, Stitch House now.
Yeah.
And
I can walk there. Yep.
No way. I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I'm like 3.5 blocks away.
Fun. And shout out to our pal there at Stitch House. I've met her and we've had a fun time at market. But the other point I wanted to make was, a lot of people now are getting back together with their Stitch clubs. And so you've participated in, is it Stitch Club Philly? Or what?
Yes, there was a Stitch Club of Philadelphia prior to COVID, and we did a couple things, and then that kind of disappeared. And now it's Stitch Philly, which is being run by Sherry Lambert and a couple other people. And so I've done a couple things with them, just gone and stitched and that kind of stuff. So,
hang out. I think that a lot of what I love about this podcast is people learn things and they're able to expand both their knowledge and their reach. And so I always like to try to mention where Stitch clubs are in case somebody's in the area and they wanted to reach out. So Stitch Philly on Instagram, is that the best?
Yes, Stitch Philly is on Instagram, and they're doing a I think their next Stitch session is going to be it's actually coming up. It's in February. It's going to be at Valley Forge Flowers, which is local here, like 5 minutes away. And they have a great Instagram. They try to do a Stitch thing like once a month, whether it's on the main line, which is, where I live, or whether it's in Philadelphia. So they try to do both.
Awesome. Well, we did not come here to talk about Stitch Philly. We came to talk about Ann Fisher, but I appreciate you helping me with kind of just getting out. So, so you kind of got your foot or your toe wet, or whatever the analogy or whatever we want to say, with the custom painting, but then and you painted something for your mom. So when did you sort of formalize wait, I kind of like this. I sort of want to make this because wait, let me back up a second. Sorry. I know too much. See, this is what happens when I talk to friends.
I know.
You had a professional career in architecture for a little while? No. You were
No,
working though another full-time job or no, never?
no, I mean, I sort of, I worked in a gallery in Boston right out of college, and was in Boston. My brother passed away, died in a car accident. And so I moved home, back to Pennsylvania, and Jake and I got married and soon after had kids. And then the whole journey kind of started. So I was working as an administrative assistant for a CRO, where I basically got to organize the CEO and CFO, and loved it because I love to sort of plan and
Good organized planner like that. Yes. Okay.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
then your life kind of gets a little crazy. You're home with your kids, you're doing some painting. And I don't want to gloss over the fact of the craze. I mean, you had a lot of life, very significant life
Yeah.
things. So I don't mean crazy. I'm being respectful of that, by the way. But we have a lot happening in Anne's life. And then I have these little kids, I'm gonna paint, I'm doing custom painting, and then we start with some ideas for my own designs, or like where's the next?
Yeah, so there were a number of people at Stitch House. Both Lisa Hanhausen and Sandy Annesley own Stitch House, and they were like, you really need to just start doing your own designs. And initially I think they wanted me to do them like exclusively for their shop, but I realized that it would probably be better for me to do wholesale. And at that point I was working at Stitch House a couple days a week, and it's interesting when you're on both sides of it as a custom painter and working at the shop and whatnot. So I decided to do the wholesale thing, and I signed up for Destination Dallas and signed up for TNNA and whatnot. And so that was when Dylan went to college. That was 2017. She went to school, and that was either my first Dallas or the one after in 2018. I think 2018 might have been my first one. So
I think mine was 2018.
Yeah, so that was my,
was
2018 was my first Dallas, because then Connor was also in school then. So that makes sense. Yeah.
Crazy. So you went to Destination Dallas with, approximately how many designs and which ones?
I think I had maybe 25 designs. And I was so nervous because I had absolutely no idea what I was doing. I had reached out to Rachel Donnelly, who had given me tons of information. I had reached out to a couple other people, and I just was like, I legitimately don't know what I'm doing. I don't know how much to bring. I think I brought like 10 or 15 of every design. I knew that it was cash and carry, and I knew that I needed to, take orders and blah, blah, blah. And it was so eye-opening, the whole experience of just coming in and, you see Kate Dickerson, it's like, oh my God, it's Kate.
Like the same way, believe it or not. Yeah.
And it's just very interesting. But yeah, I mean, one of my first designs, actually, I think we talked about this earlier, but this design of the zebra. So this came about because actually it was for a charity event that had nothing to do with Stitch House, but one of the owners had asked me to help come up with something for a breast cancer charity event. And so I came up with a number of different designs that involved pink and whatnot. And this was one of them. And so I just decided to put this in the wholesale line because I loved it. So that was one of the first ones. And then this was the other one for that charity event. Although I definitely did floof it out a bit. So those were at market. In addition to the Nantucket bags that I did, because I realized that like there wasn't anything like that on the market. I had not seen anything like that on the market. And I did work in a shop. So, I mean, I had access to, catalogs and whatnot. And I definitely Googled and did my research. So I did, I think, 4 different designs. I did the ones shaped like the basket, the big ones, and then I did the smaller ones, and I did some key fobs. And I think I did some Y pattern, and that might have been it. Like, I mean, I legitimately had very, very little.
And my guess is that it was a wild success. You probably didn't go home with a whole lot of inventory.
I did well. I was surprised. I took a lot of orders, and I mean, everybody, I think most of the shops, when there's somebody new, they always try to stop in and at least buy one thing or meet somebody or whatnot. But I signed up I got a year and a half worth of trunk shows, and it was great. Yeah.
Isn't it amazing now? Even in, so I've been in the industry about as long, I guess, 5 years. And, I feel like I've been doing this forever, and I'm sure you kind of do too, but the Kate Dickersons, the Melissa Shirleys, the Raymond Crawfords, the list goes on of these people who started in such, but what I was going to bring up is just like the way the industry has ebbed and flowed and, grown and changed in the past 5 years is just kind of wild. I mean,
yeah,
there wasn't, okay. So what I know of my own experience in the industry is that I started an Instagram account at the beginning, but it wasn't like where we lived and breathed. And I mean, we were local needlepoint shop, and now there's so much activity on Instagram and on social media with needlepoint. It's just kind of wild.
Well, that's the only way that I can do. I mean, that Instagram is literally the only way that I market my business. I mean, it's free, and it reaches the most people. I think Facebook's, I mean, there are a lot of people that use Facebook. So I just set it up to automatically post on Facebook. I rarely go on Facebook myself. But it's hard to kind of keep up with all the different algorithms and all that stuff. And I honestly don't have time to worry about whether I'm doing enough reels and all that mess. But it has changed markedly. It's interesting, Rachel and Don Lynch and I were talking about this yesterday, how we don't even recognize today what the industry looks like versus 5 years ago. And I was just getting into it 5 years ago from a wholesale standpoint. So, there used to be 2 shows a year for wholesale only artists. And it was, that was my chance to meet the shops, and they'd come in, and, there were these, cocktail hours, and everybody would get together, and there was a lot of camaraderie, and it was just a really fun environment. And I mean, this last market, like, it was crickets. The market hours ended, and we would look out over the balcony, and there was nobody socializing. There was nothing going on. It's really changed quite markedly. So
you say that, and I'm going to address that, and just because I agree with you. I think there's 2 things that have changed. Number one is that those markets have grown so much that those of us who are wandering around shopping are so exhausted. It's like, let's grab a bite, let's have a drink, and let's hit the sack. But then the other piece, I think, is that there's so much pressure from all of us in every segment of the industry to get ourselves out. Like, the minute we start getting new stuff, we have to get out, because the competition online it's there, it's present. And so we spend a lot of our time now literally uploading data, getting it on our website, doing all that. And so it's not as calm. And I think that's just life. Like, I was playing in the dirt when I was my daughter's age, and now she's like, Mom, can I talk to my friends on, Facebook chat or whatever? And I'm like, wait, no, you need to get your hands dirty. You know what I mean? Like, I think life has just changed, and so has our industry. But that's besides the point. But what else has changed? What's so funny is as I'm thinking of Ann Fisher, I have decided to kind of crown you queen of the wooden sled.
Oh,
and you
Lord.
haven't even gotten to that part of your line yet.
Yeah.
So talk to me about, so for those people who have been even in the industry for a minute in the last 5 years, I mean, Ann's classic sled design is like everywhere. We sell them. It's kind of like, it's kind of don't you kind of call this the gateway drug to the Ann Fisher?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the thing is that I did this, I painted one for myself and stitched it and made it an ornament for me. And someone in the shop saw it come in, a customer, and they were like, oh my God, I love that. Who's the designer? And I said, well, I am. And this is when I didn't have a wholesale line. And she was like, well, can I get one? I'm like, huh. So I started thinking about that and putting it into the wholesale line. And I mean, they flew. Like, I think I brought 75 to market and I sold 74. The only problem was that my sample disappeared during market. Somebody decided to walk off with that. But
oh no, you mean your stitch sample?
My stitch sample.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh,
But
man.
yeah, I mean,
So
that's how it started. And then everybody was like, because I mean, it's a great starter project. It's on 14 count, which is the other thing. I do a lot of stuff on 14.
I wanted
Which
to bring that up because I always mess it up. And I know I have it in my head for you is 14 count, but really quickly. So one of the reasons I think that sells so well is because we consider it a beginner project in our shop. You know,
yeah.
you can draw a easy rectangle around it and start in the corner, get your basket weave going, and then you've got simple colors, simple, but it's also, it says Christmas without having to say Christmas. It kind of just says winter. And I think you can make it go either way. But you do this really, really well. And there's a couple of other people in the industry that do it too, but like take a theme and then like tease it out in like the newest, freshest ways. I don't know how you keep doing it. So how many sleds are there now? So that you call that the classic sled, right?
Yes, that's just the sled. We probably should have counted this before I got on. Let me
I'm
think.
sorry. Well, I'm just going to say, so there's one with a candle, which is beautiful.
So
There's
let me
ice
think about
skate.
it's all alphabetical. So there's the sled, and then there's the blue crab, the candle, the the gingerbread man, the hydrangea, the lights, the Noel, and then the Nutcracker in blue, pink, and purple. Then the skate, the the starfish, and then it's actually a wreath with like scallop shells on it, or no, the sand dollars on it.
Okay.
But a lot of people think it's flowers or whatever, so whatever works for you. And then the Santa sled, which has taken on a world of its own. And then there have been a couple customs. Sorry, that was my mother. I put it on do not disturb. So there have been a couple customs for different shops. So like Louise's in Ohio has an Ohio sled. And I'm doing one for a different shop anyway, but yeah, so
it's just, and I think what's really cool about it is that somebody will buy that sled and then say, oh, but that one's so cute. And the other cool thing is they can do them in sets for like grandchildren. So it's like, oh, I'm going to do nutcrackers for the boys and I'm going to do the gingerbread for the, it's just really fun. So I'm giggling about the Santa sled because we here at the Needlepoint Clubhouse came up with kind of a little bit of a salty name for it. And I'm going to let people do their own research on that because I'm embarrassed to say it out loud. I'm going to blush, but anyway, we've sold so many of those Santa sleds. And the other thing is we had a customer who added that little accoutrement to it, the little belt. And it's darling. It's fun. It's an easy stitch. It's good for a beginner. It's classic. It's awesome. So this is going to lead me though, right into, the collaborations that you do, because not only do you do collaborations with other artists whose artwork you license, but you've already, also done some collaborations with your pals in the industry to be able to sort of marry each other's pieces and parts of kind of what you're known for and put them together. So I think you have them there. So your sled collaboration.
Yeah. So Rachel Donnelly and I did her gingerbread boy and girl on my sled, which these are on 18 count in order to get the detail and make them look like her pieces. And I actually had to change the count a little bit on them, but I just loved how these came out. And I think that you can do so much detail and stuff on these, and you do order these through me, but the needle minders of the little boy and girl you get through her. And then she did, I know it's confusing, she did a collaboration of her cups with my sleds on them, which you order through her. And then Don Lynch, Associated Talents, did the scissor case and the shift with my basket and whale on it. And then I did a backgammon board with his shifts on it.
So cute. And, I said this one time kind of briefly on a live, but I think it's worth rounding back to. You and Don and Rachel all had specific consent from one another to borrow each other's artwork. And so you went to her and said, hey, we're going to do this. I'm going to borrow your. So it is not cool to just borrow someone's artwork and create. at all. And the reason it's not cool is because it just really kind of dilutes the industry and also just physically takes money away from these people who have worked really hard to create this artwork. So,
Yeah.
but I think it's also okay to point out that if I buy your artwork, if I buy the classic sled and I want to add an accoutrement to it, or I want to put my initial in it, or whatever I want to do, I've bought the artwork, right? So I just think those are 2 points that are kind of important for the needlepoint industry to hear again and again. And we'll say it again for the people in the back. Don't borrow anyone's art unless you have
Right.
explicit consent from that artist. But
right. I mean,
make
like,
it your
for
own.
example, if you don't want to do the hat and you think that you can count out the end, or you take like this sled and you decide that you can, figure out the end here and, to finish off the sled in this design, and you stitch that out and you get it finished. I mean, as long as you still tag me because it was originally my design, you've altered it because you decided you didn't want the hat. I mean, I have no problem with that, but it's a matter of recognizing who the initial designer is and then
giving them credit for the original artwork, right?
Exactly. And then not deciding to buy canvas from your local needlepoint shop and counting it out and making 10 copies for your 10 friends. Like, that's not cool. I mean, the one thing I've always said, I mean, I am wholesale only, but I've always said to shops, I'm more than happy to work with you on pricing or something like that. If it's multiples, if it's for, a wedding party or whatever it might be, and they don't feel that they can afford to buy, 8 clutches or whatever for the bridal party, then call me, because odds are I would be happy to work with you on that. But
Sure. And I don't want to belabor that point because this is about Ann Fisher, not about industry things. But I think it's interesting though, with the way you guys worked together and took each other's pieces of art and put it together, and that it's important to recognize that that was done with permission and with some forethought, and there was a lot of work that went into that. So I love that you've used those sleds as a collaboration with your pals. But the other thing that you do really well is you have recognized some artwork that's out in the world that you just love, I think would be the way to say that. And explain how you kind of go through that process, because you have, what's the right way to say it? You've taken someone's artwork and translated it to needlepoint.
Yes.
Okay.
So, for example, so Jean Mason is, she and I went to the same school. She's younger than I am, and she is an amazing print artist and just artist in general. And so we were doing a lot of work at our alma mater for our sesquicentennial, and I was realizing I just absolutely adore her prints. And so I was following her on Instagram, and I saw some little watercolors she had done, and I was like, oh my God, those would be the most beautiful needlepoint. And I reached out and I was like, are you interested? And she said, absolutely, because she does actually needlepoint, and so does her mother. So the first, let me see if I have it. The first little watercolor I saw was this, and I asked her if I could make this into a needlepoint. So this is Queen Wilhelmina's Poppies. And the thing that's so great about her pieces is that, I mean, I like to use color, but she really loves color. And I mean, like, and then the mother duck, I mean, I love this. Like, it's just got so much. I just would love, I always love to see them finished. I rarely get to see stuff finished. And it's so wonderful to be able to take her stuff. This is C is for Everything, which I just got back in stock. This is the one that has, so it's the color coral. It has the car, the camellia, the camel. I don't have my glasses on.
The camera.
It has the camera, which is somewhere. It has
the cat.
It has the crab in white, which is right there.
Oh, funny. I don't even think I've ever seen that. That was like Megan's face that I didn't notice.
Yeah, it has coral. So actually this, if you look under the camel.
Yes.
So under the camel is actually coral painted in coral paint, like the outline of coral.
Awesome. Yes, I never noticed that either.
There are all kinds of things that you can find in here that you may have never seen before that are just really, really cool. And I loved it. So I was like, yeah, let me try that. I mean, again, trying to take somebody's artwork and turn it into needlepoint is probably the hardest thing because you want to do their artwork justice.
Right.
And I thought that would be so much fun, and it literally almost killed me, but that's, you know, and then this is the market basket, the Le Panier, and Stitch Style Ginny did a stitch guide for that, which is on my website. This one I love. This is the market, the fish market. There's so much going on in this, and I'm actually dying to stitch this and put it on the bag that I take to my farmer's market.
Oh, fun. Yes.
I just thought it would be incredible just to like do like an open stitch for the ice, because like all of this this is all ice.
Yes.
So these are like, that's the octopus and the mackerel, and these are the scallops, and these are the mussels, and like tins of sardines that are open, and then different fish, and the langoustines, and then the lemons. I mean, people have actually done beads for the lemons and stuff.
Ooh.
And then this, I took her,
so that's
this
right.
one, yeah,
I forgot.
So I took the zebra. So she has this amazing all over zebra print that I was having a really hard time sort of translating into needlepoint and not making it too crazy for people. And I was playing around with it one day, and then it just came up into this form, and that kind of took off.
And that's 8x8, 7x7.
This is 10x10.
Oh, it is 10x10. Okay.
Yeah.
And then
this fits in the tray.
Yes. Yeah. It's perfect.
And then this was at market this fall. So this is one of her block prints. Like, I don't know if you've ever done printmaking, but it's like a block print. And so this is the Marin coastline. So it's got the sea lions and another little crab down here with some of the seaweed, and just the Pacific Coast Highway. That's what we were trying to remember. The Pacific Coast Highway going down, and this one's coming. This is sort of, we have to work on this area, but this is San Francisco. Sorry.
The bridge and the kind of the fog rolling off the bridge is so.
Yeah, and the whales, and then the little ferry. And then she has another one, which I'm hoping to get done. It's going to be sort of in a dark hunter green, and it's the redwood forest, and it's really pretty. There's beautiful owl going through with like rays of light, and it's just really, really lovely.
So
and then
Mason, excuse me, go ahead.
Yeah, so then I was looking around, and so there's a needlepointer local who actually owns it's called LAA. It's Lauren Addis art collection, and she works with various different artists, and one of them is Sal Panache. And if you go on the collaboration tab on my website, you can see the stories for all of them. But he actually was, I'm probably butchering this and giving it in a very short whatever, but he was in an accident. He had to go to therapy, and he ended up doing art therapy. So I think he was in finance, and ended up having to do art therapy, and now he's an artist. And I mean, like, across the world artist with things. So the first one I did was this one, which is the lilacs and lemon.
So pretty. And translating that's watercolor, isn't it, originally?
Yeah, this
not easy.
No. No, didn't realize like how difficult. And I used to do watercolor, so I was like, I'll try it. No. And then this is the floral with the sunflowers and the lilacs and whatnot. And yeah.
And those are all on 13 or 14 count?
These are on 14. And Mary from Whimsical Stitch did the stitch guide for the lilacs and lemon.
Yes. And you purchased those stitch guides directly through her, correct?
Yes. So there's a link on my website for those as well, but those go directly through them. Like I have nothing to do with the stitch guides. I just advertise that they're available.
That's exactly right. Yep. Got it.
Yeah.
People are loving stitch guides lately. We have been writing a lot of stitch guides here. So that's awesome to have that resource.
Yeah, I think it helps some things come alive. And then Joy of Needlepoint did a stitch guide for my Cape Cod Marsh piece.
Oh, yes. And that's a square also, right? Or you have one around.
Hold on.
She's going to grab it for us. Yeah. Oh, so pretty.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So there's lots of different you know, lots of different options and stuff, but I just like seeing it stitched because I think it gives people, that's gonna fall. I think it gives people some suggestions that maybe they didn't think of, or threads that they didn't think of.
Yep.
You know,
So we've got Jean Mason, we've got Sal Panache, and then
Emily Ruiz is an artist out of South Carolina. She actually works with vintage flags and she does flag installations. And so I did the May Your Tan Fade Slow and Life Comes in Waves, or It Comes in Waves. Those are both hers. And so those are the 3 collaborations. And then the other one I did was for Ukraine, and that's with Julia Krasnik. She's a Ukrainian artist. And that's the Surfer Girl. And
I'm looking at the pond with the rowboat, and we have that on our wall.
The swans, yeah. And
yeah.
those 2, 100% of that, I get nothing. 100%, and she doesn't either. 100% of that goes to the World Central Kitchen. Yeah.
So any other collaborations on your sort of agenda? Or, I mean, you don't have to share specifics, but you have something?
I do have one.
We love a good sneak here on the podcast.
I did a reel, so I mean it's sort of snuck out already, but I am doing a collaboration with Paige Minier of the Pink Clutch.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yes, yes, yes.
And I know the one you like is this one, which is the yeah.
My only moral dilemma with that one is that my favorite pup is Rookie, my actual dog, but my second favorite pups are limited because I love a good Staffordshire dog. So, oh my gosh, I forgot about, yes, what was I thinking? Yes, those are awesome.
Yeah. And she worked with the Grand Millennial, Nicole, and who I guess came up with this saying. But so that comes in pink or blue. And then they're going to be coasters also. I
really need more cardio right now than just tying bows, but I do tie a lot of bows. So
I don't have the well, we're going to do coasters that just say please with like a bow. But yeah, so I'm hoping, praying that those will be available. They should be for market in spring.
Yes.
And I'm hoping to do something with Paige and Nicole where we can actually meet in person and just introduce the canvases and that kind of stuff, which would be really fun. I'm excited about that.
I would love to attend that. I follow both of them on Instagram and they're really fun. I love all the vintage style and the anyway, they're a lot of fun. So good for you. That's very cool.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to think now what does the future look like for Ann Fisher Needlepoint?
You know, that's a good question. I ask myself that every day.
Isn't it hard as a small business owner? You're like, am I happy where I'm at? Do I want to grow some more? Do I, are there new designs I want to do? Are there new collaboration? It's hard, isn't it?
Well, it is hard to try to figure out the industry and the direction it's going in and how to stay relevant. But also the one thing I try really hard to do is try to like keep my line, if that makes sense. Like I don't want to do a design. I mean, even if I start doing something that I think is going to be amazing, and I'm like, but how does that fit? You know, like it's kind of hard. I try to make sure that everything sort of makes sense.
You know, the term I coined, it has to be Ann Fishery.
Well, that's true. I mean, it does, you know, you can't have something so off the wall. That's why I love the collaborations, because it does give me an outlet to do something different that's not Ann Fishery. You know, which is nice. But yes, I do have, I mean, I have a couple custom things for shops. You know, people have reached out to me a lot lately and been like, oh, you know, would you be interested in doing an exclusive and whatnot? And I mean, of course, I'm always open to doing that. But yeah, I just, you know, I'm interested to see what the market has in store in the spring. And I do have a lot of ideas. It's just the painting services are getting much better. That's definitely, the turnaround time is getting much better. But you know, it's hard to kind of balance life and work, and it's been busy lately. Our son's moving to Charleston. So we're doing that, but
and he just graduated from undergrad, right?
He did. He graduated in December and from University of South Carolina, and we moved everything home on like the 16th of December. And then he got a job on the 20th in Charleston, South Carolina. So I got back last Friday. We went down Wednesday, Friday, looked at like 8 different apartment complexes. And we are packing up the U-Haul tomorrow and driving back down to move him in.
Well, the good news about Charleston is there's a beautiful shop there you can visit. So you can go to the needlepoint.com, right?
There is. So yeah, I mean, I'm excited for him and he's excited. It's just, it's finally happening. I don't think I've really had time to sort of process the fact that it's actually happening because everything has just been going so quickly, but
yes.
Yeah. And then our daughter's in grad school down in DC. And so we've been empty nesters for a long time, but we will really, really be empty nesters.
They will have their own homes, not in school anymore. It's wild. Yeah. It's wild how fast life moves. And then as a small business owner, you're also like you said, kind of like trying to like hang on to how fast the industry is moving and the changes. And I think you're doing an awesome job. I mean, I can say that as a industry friend and also a friend. I mean, I love working with Ann Fisher, and for everyone who's kind of known you for 5 years, I think we're like ready to keep seeing what you got, girl. Like you keep doing very Ann Fisher-y things and we love it. And I have to say one thing that I forgot to ask you if I could mention, but I'm going to do it anyway because I'm always off the rails. So poor Ann, I had this idea and I said, Ann, let's do this. And she was like, okay. She created this collaboration between she and I. It's been about 1 year.
Yeah, I have. Well,
I have what? It's stitched, Dan. So it's almost time to move to the next step.
So you finished stitching yours?
It's done. It's done. Are you gonna? Don't show it.
Okay, I have it. I have one.
Do we want to announce what our collaborative idea is, or do we want to wait?
We don't have. I think you need to see it finished.
So I have it stitched and we're about to get it finished. So for those people who know that Ann and I have been buds, that I gave her this idea. She gave me this beautiful canvas. I stitched most of it about a year ago and then I got stuck and it is now finished. And I did like this little, I don't know if you remember this on Instagram. I was like, look, I'm so excited. I've never seen my name STL next to Ann Fisher. And everyone people asked for quite a while after that. And then I think that they kind of forgot because I'm taking so long to get it together, but we will get it together and there's exciting things coming and I'm super, super pumped to work with you. And yeah, so maybe this podcast will be the reason why we.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the idea was interesting because you had seen something or someone had brought something in. And then I was like, oh, well, my mom used to travel with something. And then we were like, how could we do it in Needlepoint? And then I think you talked to Sue, your finisher. And it was like, well, yeah, we could do that. And then we figured out the measurements and, so we have the one design and then we were going to build like a whole thing off of just that one design. We'll see how this, but we do have to figure out like numbers and stuff if this is actually gonna.
It will. We'll talk about it. I promise. So this isn't about me and Ann, but I think the point here is that this industry is awesome. I appreciate you taking time to talk to me. I appreciate the fact that you are so willing and able to kind of collaborate and work with people and, invent things and reinvent things. And you're just a gem in the industry. So I love that you are here with me and redoing this. And this has been really fun. Is there anything that we've forgotten to talk about?
I don't know.
I don't think so. I mean,
probably because it's already in our brain and we've already talked about it. We're just not realizing it. But,
well, if there is anything that we have forgotten to ask Ann or something that you're dying to know about her that you didn't, hit subscribe to the podcast. You're on YouTube, hit subscribe, and then you can make comments in the notes underneath the episode drop. And then when other people make notes, then you, I think once you're a subscriber, you get, at least I get, maybe not everybody does, but you can get notifications, couldn't think of the word, when there's conversation. And so anyway, Ann's I wouldn't say an open book, but I think Ann is more than happy to answer any other questions that we were like just forgot to talk about here today. But this has been really fun and I appreciate you. And I guess that's all I have to say. Thank you everybody for tuning into, gosh, it's morning. I'm drinking coffee. I promise this is not wine. It says it might be, but it's not. It's just coffee. But thanks everyone for tuning in. And thank you, Ann. And I'll see you soon, girl.
All right. Thank you.
Yep. Bye-bye.
Bye.